Welcome everyone to LPC Coffee and Collaboration. I'm Angie Stump Denton. I'm the editorial leader for Drovers for Farm Journal, and I'm co-chairman of the LPC Education Committee with Rachel Waggy from KLA. She's listening today, but she woke up today with no voice. So unfortunately, you have to hear me today, and you don't get to hear the young Rachel, the kind of main leader of our groups here. So. We're glad to have all of you with us, and I'm really excited about our presentation today, but we're going to start off, and Stacy, our LPC Executive Director, has a few announcements to share with everyone.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Angie, and thanks for jumping in. Clint, thanks for being here today. Great crowd. Glad to see everybody jumping on. The recording will be available on YouTube later today as well, so that's exciting. The big things we're working on right now is hopefully you've seen or heard about our regional workshop next week at the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. And registration, we're still accepting registrations for that. I will drop the link to the registration or to the agenda and everything in the chat for anybody that maybe hasn't heard about that yet. We feel like we have a great lineup of speakers. Jennifer Scheich has done a fantastic job of pulling in speakers, including our keynote, who is Temple Grandin. So we're really excited to have her as part of our program, but there's still time to register and join us. Casey Brown is on here as well, who's going to be one of our other speakers. I don't know if we have any other speakers on here, but we're glad that you're here. Also, be on the lookout because our People's Choice photo contest is going to open up in October. So get those photos ready. And this year we are opening it up to non-members to be able to enter. But as LPC members, you do get a discounted rate on your entries. So be sure and look for that. Get those. That'll run October 1st through October 31st, and then look for the information on being able to vote on that as well in that first week of November. So be thinking about your scenic livestock people, and then general photographs. We've got a few categories and can't wait to see what you have captured. And with that, I will turn it back over to Angie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Stacy. Thanks for those notes. Yeah, I just want to call out the LPC Regional Workshop. Jennifer and her team and Stacy, they worked really hard. They have great speakers. And so, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it. Being a show mom and being at Exarban next week takes precedence, unfortunately, but I would do anything to be there in Illinois to see that event. I think it's going to be amazing. So, if you can, make the trip and you won't want to miss that great lineup of speakers. But today, I'm really excited to have with us Clint White. He is from the United Sorghum Checkoff program, and he's going to talk to us about unleashing AI for creative thinking and productivity. And Clint, I'll just let you kind of introduce yourself and then kind of go into your presentation. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your discussion today.
Yeah, thanks, Angie. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Clint White. As you mentioned, Director of Communications for the Sorghum Checkoff, based out of Lubbock, Texas. Pretty much have spent most of my career in Dallas, and then recently in 2020, got to move back to Lubbock, which is where we call home. My family and I, wanted to get back to Lubbock and to our roots and go back to the slow life from where we were at from Dallas. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of my kind of career path and kind of what led me to the Sorghum Checkoff. But want to just dive in on how I utilize AI in with my team and with my day-to-day kind of work. So we'll just get right into it. Did everyone see my screen? Great, great. Unleashing AI for creative thinking and productivity. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm in this comms world, but I am much a very visual person. One of the things that I've really learned is that AI can help me fill some of those gaps, some of those holes where I have in some of the other things that come along with communications, right? Writing, tone, all those great things that some of you are probably really great at. Me, I'm a very visual person. Have a background in creative and graphic design. And so as I made this kind of career path change, I had to learn some new skills and new tools. And along the way, AI has been able to help me with that. So just real quick, I think there's this idea that, AI is stealing my job, or AI is going to take over the world. I think, it's interesting. I've kind of given this presentation a couple times now, and the further I've gotten into this, the more I realize I'm kind of speaking to the choir. A lot of times I'm speaking to students at Texas Tech, and letting them know about how we're utilizing AI. And of course, that whole collegiate world is so scared about, how are they using it the right way? Is it copying? Are their professors checking on them and how they use it? And so one of the things I figured out really quickly is that as I was talking to them and how they can use AI and how it's not that scary, they were all already doing it. And so I was really the one that was kind of behind, like saying, hey, you should be using AI. Meanwhile, they were all already doing it. What they needed was some guidelines and some parameters to kind of let them know how they can be using it safely without, stealing anyone's work or copywriting, any type of stuff. So, I think it's pretty easy to dismiss these two kind of images as far as AI taking my job or AI taking over the world. I think one key thing to remember here is that, in this day and age, communications are asked to do a lot of things, right? So when I started in my field, I was a strict graphic designer. Like, I just came up with the cool graphics. We had a photographer who would take the pictures. We had a copywriter who would write the copy. We would have a marketing director who would take all that stuff and kind of combine it into a piece. I just got to do the graphics part. Well, that's, been 25 years or so. And now communications is taking more and more of those roles. So now you are the photographer, you're the graphic designer, you're the writer, you're the copywriter, you're doing all those things in-house. And so that's where AI can kind of fit in and kind of help with some of utilizing its tools to kind of make your job go faster. Because and that's the thing, as AI gets better, we're going to be asked to do more and take on more, as we already are. So I'm here at the Sorghum Checkoff. We have two people in our comms position in our team. Of course, we do work with some agencies that help us fulfill some bigger needs as far as paid media and such, but a lot of work in-house as far as our social media and our writing goes. And I'm very casual, so if anybody has any questions, I probably won't see it in the chat until later, so just pipe in. So, obviously there's some concern about accuracy. It's very data driven. So what's kind of put into it is what it kind of spits out, right? And so we all know that that could be misleading, and that's where some ideologies could be put into chat. What I would say is, always check your work. You've always got to be checking that work to make sure the quality's there. Consistency checks, again, always doing consistency checks. Try your prompts one style and then try it a different way. See if it spits something out. I've found that sometimes when I change my prompt, it gives me a different answer. And then I'm like, uh-oh, what's wrong here? Like, this is the same question, but it's just formatted a little bit differently. Why is it giving me two different answers? Like, maybe I need to go fact check some of this. Cross-referencing, again, doing the same thing. Critical information that's trusted, and making sure that that information that it's getting. So a lot of times I work for the Sorghum Checkoff. Everything that we say has to go through USDA and our AMS specialist. So, I mean, we can't put anything out there that's not true and factual and that we can go back and cite. And so a lot of times I'll ask it a question and I'm like, that sounds weird. I've never heard that before. Give me a source. And then I'll go check into that source and see if it's credible, right? And then, there's some limitations around, so it's powerful, but occasionally it can produce errors. It has these illusions, that it interprets from the data that's been put into it, and it can have errors. So I always, again, fact check it again, ask itself, like, hey, are you sure about this? Like, I literally talk to my chat person like it's a real person. Like, I go home sometimes and I'll get on my phone one and I'll just talk to it like it's a real person. And I found that sometimes I get more natural human results that way. So how agriculture wins with AI? Obviously, it can automate a lot of tasks. That could be, from just formatting. Like, if I've got a database of names that I need to get inputted into my email database, and maybe it's a little bit certain different ways, I'll just upload it in the chat and ask it exactly how I want it to format. And then I'll have it spit me out like a PDF or something that I could easily copy and paste from. Um, so a good example is this one here on the right. So this top document here, is really just about a 40 or 30-page document that I was sent that basically is an assurance protocol for our exports to maintain that they have these sustainability attributes that our exporters are looking for and to be able to tell their customers about sorghum. And so, as you can see, this is black and white, all text, very heavy. And basically the request for me was, hey, take this pamphlet, right, of 30 pages and simplify it into like an overview page or like a 2-page, front and back that we could easily print and hand out to people. And then if they want to learn more information, we give them that QR code where they can go see the entire protocol, right? And so I threw it into Chat GPT first thing and said, I need you to research this thing and look through it and tell me like the highlights so that I can start thinking about how I bring that to a visualization, to a nice, pretty, make this pretty eye chart or one pager that could really communicate the big things that is in this protocol without just overloading it with text, right? And so it did that, and it gave me the highlights, and it gave me some things that I needed to call out. And then I asked it again, okay, where could I put some graphics in here? What would that look like? And then so you could see it kind of transitioned from this black and white heavy, block text down to this more simplified version is what actually Chat GPT spit out. And then from there, I took that idea and I put it into this nice one pager with our branding and our styling and our fonts and colors and all that good stuff. And really kind of created this one pager that could be easily visually looked at, broken down to what categories that maybe that consumer is looking for, and then easy to print, right? And then of course, there's the QR code there that spits them back. So I was using this as a way to break down the information and really get to the core of what the objective was for the assignment. And that was to do this overview for this protocol that we could hand out at trade shows. And if those folks were interested in more, they can go to the QR code and get the full protocol. So again, looking for ways to take research and analyze it into easy words. We do a lot of board reports. We get a lot of these really long research, and it's got a lot of data in there and a lot of big words. And I'm like, man, I'm a communications person. I'm just trying to simplify it so that I can get the folks that are interested in it to pick it up and look at it. And so how can I take this 40-page research and turn it into like a paragraph that my board members can read? And if they want to go into more depth, they can go with that link, right? But for for what they're wanting to do, they just want to know what the research is. Is it helpful to sorghum farmers or is it not? And so taking those big research papers and having it kind of analyze that and break it down into really easy bullet points that you can then put on paper and in your copy is just easy to digest, right? Of course, there's language transition. If you haven't heard, AI's got these new AirPods that you could put in and it'll literally translate as someone speaking to you that language. And so AI is doing a lot of really cool stuff there. And then again, strengthening your writing. A lot of times we get writer's block. And so sometimes I'll just go to chat and I'll just write it. I'll just write in there into the message. And then I'll just say, put it in my tone. Like you've known me enough. Like we've worked together, chat, for a year and a half here, and my style, put it in my style now. And no, that doesn't look right. Like try this, or change the tone to be a little bit more strict. I had an email from an agency, and they were pitching us some business, and we looked at a couple of different agencies, and it was a really hard decision. It came down to two of them, and I had to let the agency know, like, hey, it just didn't work out. Like, we're going to go a different direction. And I'm very like a one word reply person. Like if you text me, you might get 1-2 words back from me. And so I needed that email to soften its tone and be a little bit more like, hey, this project's not going to work out for us, but I see something down the line that could potentially work out for us. And so just kind of asking chat to take my email that was pretty just like one liner and turning it into something that's a little bit more like, hey, sorry, we can't work together. We're looking for something down the line and maybe you guys will fit that need. And so again, just kind of utilizing it to save some time and some energy there. Here's some other ideas. As far as idea creation generation, I don't use, any of these AI generative models a whole lot for graphics. I don't feel like they're there yet. I've been in graphic design for a long time, and I can pretty easily spot when I see some AI work. You know, it used to be the fingers, right? Like you'd get multiple fingers on hands, and they've gotten better. And I mean, think about this. This is just 2, 3 years old, and so it's going to continue to get really, really, really good. But it only has the references that it has, right? That the data that's been put into it, and so sorghum is a pretty unknown grain from around the world, and especially in the United States. And so it's still kind of learning what sorghum looks like from a food application and even just from like a graphic application. And so I was creating these little graphics for social media for our kids' curriculum, which is K through 12. And I wanted just these fun kind of superhero graphics. It gave me this great idea. I didn't ultimately use that image. I kind of created my own, but I had this as a great reference to kind of kickstart my brainstorming and give me like a really, really fast, you know, sketch, so to speak, that I can go right to my computer and draw that in Illustrator or whatnot. Another really cool thing we've done is, you know, sometimes you get projects that are pretty monotonous, and you know, they just kind of are what they are. And so one of them was this sorghum in the kitchen, which was basically just very bland copy. And they wanted to turn that into a video series that they could educate food service folks on what sorghum is so they can start applying it in their food menu and in their products. And so I had Chat GPT help me with that script writing, not because I needed the story to be written, but because when you're doing, you know, 30-second commercials or 1 minute longer segment videos, you really want that copy to fit within the flow of the video as well as the timing, right? Like you've only got 60 seconds or 15 seconds on a 15-second spot to really nail what you're wanting it to nail. And so utilizing chat, I was able to go in there and kind of basically have that write the script for me. And then I can go in there and tune it up, right? And make it more playful and more human, and make sure that, you know, our culinary chef Chase here, his you know, his mannerisms and his fun energy comes across in the script. And so it just gave me that really good draft to then go and utilize that as more of a an idea and a brainstorm and a draft to get to the point where we had our full script, and then we just go live on set, shoot that video. And so again, saving a lot of times. uh Another image here is just kind of a bowl of sorghum, little breakfast walnut bowl. You know, dropping in recipes into chat and having it work out through descriptions for us is something that we've utilized. We've had hundreds of recipes on our website that don't have great descriptions. And so we went through and actually had some of our junior level designers or interns even go in and put those recipes in the chat, tell them how many characters that we can have for our descriptions, and then have it write our descriptions. And so that turned weeks of work into days, if not hours. And so again, just kind of utilizing some of those tools that can kind of help you get those projects over the finish line or help jumpstart them as far as the brainstorming. Here's just a cool little idea. It just kind of shows you some of the power. Again, I don't use a whole lot of the Adobe AI quite yet. I've just found it to be to have some limitations on what it can and can't do as far as being creative or just seeing some issues there. And so this is a video of just how you can utilize AI in Photoshop to make a vertical picture, a horizontal picture, and then even removing an object that's in that scene. So as you can see here, I've got this nice picture of JB Stories, one of our fine producers in Oklahoma. And I'm just going to highlight that area that I need more of the crop in and hit the generative tool. And I'm not even going to type anything in there. I'm just going to grab some of that area and let it capture. And then here you go, boom. Once again, just hitting the generative fill. I'm not even putting anything into the copy window. I'm just hitting generate. And it's now knowing that I want that rest of that picture to be filled in. And as you can see here, there's something weird there. And so it's got a couple options. And so I'll select through those options until I find one that matches just right. And then if we need to take this out completely and take JB out of this photo, we could just highlight him. Again, I'm not even going to write anything like remove producer. I'm just going to hit generate and see what happens. So again, I mean, how many times have you been at a photo shoot and you've gotten a beautiful shot that's a vertical shot, and then all of a sudden you decide that you want to use that in a spread and you need that long horizontal shot? This is a perfect way to take a shot. Now, look, I understand that there's some issues here when it comes to what you can and can't submit from a if you're looking to get awards and whatnot for a photo, and that's something that you have to take up with yourself and understand that what you can and can't do with imagery. I certainly wouldn't submit any photos that have been AI generated or messed with, whatever you want to call it, edited. But at the end of the day, this is going to save me time and energy, especially after I've been at a shoot and just didn't get quite the shot that I needed from that. Let's see. I want to say I missed a slide here, so I'm going to go back. Okay. Yeah, I just want to call this one out because there are some limitations. There are some lack of originality. It's not going to just be the most creative thing that you ever use yet. I mean, it's getting better fast. There are some errors. It does have biased responses in some things that you ask it for. Whenever you get to really, more creative writing, you've got to be careful there. And again, I think there are some major creative limitations. I think this is a great example here on the right of some logos that I was brainstorming for our 15-year anniversary, and I was just curious, like what would chat or what would some of these AI generative platforms spit out if I asked it for a Sorghum Checkoff 15-year anniversary. And these top ones, as you can see, is pretty much what you would think it would generate, right? Like it took sorghum, it took the word, it took the plant, it took the word, and it just kind of made like a stamp or some type of mark that somewhat looks like a logo, right? But there's not a whole lot of creative depth in any of these. There's not a lot of concept. And so when you're creating a logo, you're always looking for like a concept in it, right? And so at the bottom here was done by a good friend of mine. His name is Dirk Fowler. He's a professor at Texas Tech, and he's actually a world-renowned poster artist for like rock and roll bands. And he's worked with some of the biggest bands in the world, including Miranda Lambert and some other big bands in the area. And as you can see here, the 15, you can see the stock and the leaf in the counter there, the 15. That's just conceptual art that a machine can't do. And that's where we as creatives, or even if you're not super creative and you're just working with someone creative, that's where really the mark comes from, right? Like there's nothing that the machine can do to conceptualize what my graphic designer did here for this 15-year anniversary logo. Very proud of that logo. We won some awards with it, and clearly, as just a logo itself, stands out much more strong and personal, and feels like what the crop feels like when you see it in the field than some of these other ones that the machine created. Let's see. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I skipped over a couple of pages. This is just another kind of, it's designed to assist you and not copy. Again, it is pattern based, and so it's taking data, it's taking patterns, it's taking pictures that it can access, and it's generating based off of that. So this first image here is create an image of a sorghum field in the sunset, right? And so you get a pretty generic, image there. I mean, I think some of us could recognize pretty quickly that this isn't a real photo. The sorghum doesn't look quite right. The colors are a little off, but it's a pretty picture. And then again, just with the change of that prompt, create an image in a style of Pablo Picasso. So clearly this isn't a copy of Pablo Picasso, because I doubt that he has any sorghum fields out there in his artwork. If he does, that'd be pretty cool. But I doubt that he does. But obviously, this is a copy of his style, right? This is this is the way he approached art in his abstract style. And so, yes, if you put a prompt in there like this, you're going to get something that is very generated, that is very like somebody else's style. And if that's what you're looking for, great. But again, if you're going to come over some issues about copying, and that's where it's going to come from. That's right. Let's see. So some tips and tricks. So again, as I continue to talk about AI, I feel like a lot of people are catching up, right? So all the conferences that we're going to that didn't talk about AI are starting to, right? And so some of these might be like, oh yeah, of course, but some of them might be like, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And so you want to tell your story and in your brand's voice. And so yeah, we may utilize some chat GPT to help us write social copy, but at the end of the day, it's your brand's voice that needs to convey to your consumer. And if you start just copying and pasting chat GPT's copy for social media, it's going to get pretty transparent pretty quick that you're just using a tool to make your life faster and easier. You still want to have that connection with your base and your consumer, and you still want to relay that message that your company is trying to get out there, right? I think you can get really, really dangerous when you start just copying and pasting and using what chat spits out from a social media, from copy, especially in social media world where everyone's looking to jump on a firestorm, everyone's looking to have a viral moment. And so as a checkoff organization, and I know there's probably some else on this call, you've got to be really careful about what you're saying out there, because one thing that the machine might write is definitely something that you don't want your producers to see. And so again, just always having those guardrails of, okay, got it from this source. Now I'm checking it with my, marketing team. Now I'm checking it with my other team to make sure that there's not any like big no-nos in there, right? It can get a little wordy. It could also do some strange things like, Oxford commas, or the M dashes are obviously really popular right now. And I think M dashes are getting a lot of hate because it's a great tool, but chat seems to be overusing it. And so I've actually gone in there and there's some preferences that you can do in chat, and you can tell it like, hey, no M dashes, always AP style. Like those little things are nice little tricks to kind of go in there and do. Write for real people, like, again, I just wouldn't copy and paste something right into it. I mean, there's certainly helping you and do your job and from productivity, but there's also that like, hey, I want to be genuine, especially in a brand voice. um Give it specific directions. I talk to it, and no offense if we have any interns on here, but I talk to it like it's an intern, right? Like an intern, they've never experienced a day in the life of the business, right? So they come into the office and they're like, I don't know what you mean by go to the library and grab this and scan this, right? They may never have ever used a scanner or a printer. And that's actually probably pretty true these days. But so talk to them like they're an intern. Give the prompt exactly what you want it to feed you out. The shorter you are with it, the shorter it's going to be, or the more it's going to give you. It's going to spit out information that's just vague, right? So be creative. Use the visuals and infographics for mock-ups and test ideas. A lot of times we'll do like little videos and stuff, and I'll have it kind of sketch out ideas. Ultimately, those aren't going to be the ideas that are published, but again, it's just kind of those thought starters. Set the tone. Give it captions and photos of you what you want it to kind of look like and work with. And then always fact check. You're always fact checking everything, of course. So just a little bit about my background, and then I can open it up for any questions. Started out as a graphic designer, graduated from Texas Tech. My first job out of college was a graphic designer at Fossil. And so got to work with a lot of really cool, like different departments. They were very heavy in creative, in graphics and design. And so design came first there. And so far as a graphic designer, I was like, man, this is like the mecca of a place to work at, right? Because get to work on a company that believes that design comes first. I mean, another company like that is Apple, where everything down to their packaging is about their design. And so got to work on some cool projects here. This is the NCAA campaign that we worked on. And then, of course, getting to do some photography with the beautiful product shots and kind of working through that campaign. Went to a couple of agencies and really got inspired and fell in love with food. And so worked with an agency who did some big clients at the time, On the Border, TGI Fridays, which, believe it or not, those were used to be really, really big clients. I know they're all going bankrupt now, but yeah, I went through that phase, and so it wasn't fun. And then I landed at Chuck E. Cheese, where I was the creative director there, and got to work on just a magnificent, fun brand, where we got to really engage with moms and kids, and got to work on some of these fun graphics, and food photography really became my passion, and really just kind of using my communications to speak to our consumers, and strictly inside the store. So kind of had a big agency that drove them to the store, and then it was my job to make sure that the menu was on point, and that they were ordering everything that we wanted them to order from a price standpoint, upselling them on things like stuffed crust pizza, or games like the Rip It Win It Chuck E. Cheese game, where kids can win prizes on their pill cup or on their Coke cup. um, Big project I got to work on towards the end of my career there was our redesign. This was a test back in 2018. We rolled it out to about 12 stores. We immediately saw some impact on same store sales. And after I left in 2020, the company decided to roll these out company wide. So if you've been around a new Chuck E. Cheese or a remodeled Chuck E. Cheese, you would see this new design that I had a part of. And so very proud of that, including opening up the kitchen inside the restaurant so that moms can see how their food was made, and see that we made our dough fresh in-house every day, which a lot of pizza companies don't do. So really, really fun projects there. Just going to show some little commercials. Not sure if the audio is working yet, but just again, really, really unique. Oh, sorry. Here's another one. This was fun. This is where we kind of made like a kid, kind of the CEO of the company. And then bringing that over to ag, right? And so it's like, man, how did you go from being the creative director, in Dallas, Texas, to being in Lubbock, Texas, and being the communications director for Sorghum Checkoff? Well, it was a vision by my CEO, who was really looking to kind of expand and get more consumer awareness around sorghum and its food attributes for humans. I can say this because I'm now an ag I'm the ag guy, right? But before, I've never been in ag my entire life, and this was all brand new to me. And it was a scary position for me to change my career path, but it was also a testing time for our company and what trajectory they were going to take as far as moving sorghum's needle, as far as crop, acres, and what they're going to do with that, diversifying markets and getting into new and different markets. And so there was a big risk that they were taking on me, bringing an outsider into the ag space. But it was also a risk on my part, kind of coming to a new world. And what I'll say is ag opened its arms and welcomed me in nicely. And but I didn't have any ag experience. And so what was unique about it was I was able to bring kind of the consumer insights that I learned from the outside into the ag world, where sometimes it can be a little closed-minded and could be a little bit lack of creativity. But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to communicate a message to our consumers or our producers, and relay that message in a way that they can digest and that they can easily consume, right? And so here's some ads that we've recently done for the Sorghum Checkoff. And this is I believe, a 15-second spot on sorghum. So the campaign was based around this sorghum secret, and we created a landing page where people could go to and see the secret of sorghum, and that it's the best kept secret for chefs. And so really trying to get food influencers to talk about sorghum, the food service industry to start utilizing it as an ingredient, as well as product makers like chips and tortilla chips and popped popcorn to start utilizing sorghum in those ways. Obviously, it's got a lot of good, healthy attributes that, from a nutritional standpoint, elevate itself, but it's also got a lot of flexibility on what it can do, from being a gluten-free flour to a whole grain pearled grain, just like quinoa or rice is. And so it can be substituted for any of those. So again, just kind of bringing that consumer thought and mindset into the ag space and really kind of flipping it upside down on its head and just talking to people like we know they are, right? And so again, a little bit about the Sorghum Checkoff. We're a producer-funded organization that's dedicated to improving the sustainability of sorghum industry through research, promotion, and education. And so one of the unique things that I get to work on here is the producer communications and the consumer side. Um, Both very, very different, right? We all know that, but it's really unique, and I get to tell the story of our farmers and the amazing work that they've been doing from a sustainability standpoint. I mean, our farmers wouldn't be fifth generation farmers if they weren't sustainable, right? That's the whole meaning of the word. They believe, agriculture to be sustainable for their next generation. And so our amazing producers all across the United States have already been doing these practices, and we just want to elevate that message. And then from the consumer side, again, gaining that awareness on what sorghum can be used for, and that it's an American grown ancient grain that's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And it's nutritious, and it's got all those great attributes in it, like high in protein and antioxidants that we can talk about. Some of the products that sorghum's in, wide variety of cereals and breads and snacks, and gluten-free breads like Chick-fil-A's gluten-free bun. And then we're trying to get more and more into the grocery stores where folks, after they learn about it through hopefully all the things that we're working on, they demand that grocery store to start carrying it in ways that they can start utilizing it at home so it can be a pantry food, just like rice and quinoa is today. And of course, we get to do some fun trips. This was a trip that I did for a mission trip in India. India currently does not purchase U.S. sorghum, but they are growing at an extreme population. And as they get more and more money in their community, they are eating more meats and poultries. That's mostly a vegetarian country. But poultry is one of the industries that sorghum kind of fits a need for. They're a non-GMO country, which means they won't import anything that has GMO in it. Sorghum does not have GMO in it, and so there's an opportunity there, especially in a time where we're at tariff wars with China, and China is our biggest market. And so looking to get into more markets like India and Southeast Asia, where we can continue to diversify and keep producers growing sorghum. That's what I got. I know that was a lot.
Thank you, Clint. We
Any,
do have a few questions over in the chat.
yeah.
First one's from Casey Brown. She said, without an ag background, do you think AI has helped you get up to speed?
Yeah, I would say I would say it hasn't. I think going out there and learning the industry, of being a part of what ag means. I by no means am like 100% there. I learn something new every day. We have a lot of smart people in our team, and typically after our meetings, I just go right to my notebook and start asking them questions like, "What in the world was that word you just used talking about ethanol?" And so, no, I think you got. I think I had to get out there. I think a great example of it is Raising Cane's. I have some friends that work for their corporate office in Dallas, and when you first start there, you work 6 weeks in the kitchen as a fryer. And if you notice all of their business cards, no matter who it is, the CEO of the company, it all says chicken fryer or fryer something on it. And I think that's a unique way of training your people up. I think it's really cool. And so as I got here, I just got out in the field and spoke to the producers and figured out their concerns and their needs and some of the things that hasn't been getting communicated from their standpoint. Um, and so, yeah, I think it can help. But again, 2020 is when I started, and I think AI is really starting to hit strong in the last probably what 2, 3 years. So it's still got to get out there and learn your field. And if that's a career change that's even out of ag, got to get out there. We did a lot of times where we would go to our stores when I was with Chuck E. Cheese, and the marketing team and myself would come up with these amazing ideas, and then we would get to the store level and test it with the GM, and it would fail. And it's like we had this unbelievable idea, but because we failed to communicate how the GMs execute it, the entire promotion failed. And if you can't get that buy-in from your general managers, then it's not going to do good. And so no matter how much money you spend on the corporate side for this idea that's great and creative, if the GMs don't buy into it, it's going to fail. Same thing, same worlds here. If our producers aren't bought into the messages that we're saying, it's going to fail. Good
Thank you.
question.
Here, we have a couple more questions here. Macy Hurst, hers is, she said, first, love this. Thanks, Clint. Even at AMS, I heard conversations that were opposed to any use of AI in communications. What would you say to those individuals?
Yeah, I think that's been one of my biggest complaints with AMS. I think the entire conference, this past one was better. The year before that, when AI was just really in the thick of it and really topic of conversation, I'd never heard the word one time. So I was very upset with AMS about that. I let a couple people know. It is the world we live in today. Look, I don't by any means think that, you should be utilizing AI to do your job. I think it's a tool. I think a great example is when I was in college, I took photography, and you went into a dark room with a metal spool and you put film on that spool in the dark and you rolled it. And if you messed up, if that film touched, then your whole shot, all your shots from that day were ruined. Well, Photoshop came along and digital cameras came along. It's just a tool. It's something that we should have as that we use as our assets to make us faster, quicker, and better. But that's all it is. It shouldn't take over our lives as far as what we do from an output standpoint. It should just be a tool to help us. And again, more and more stuff is going to be put on our plate, and so we have to have tools that can help us make those faster.
Holly Martin asks, what guardrails do you have for yourself and your team using AI?
Yeah, if I can spot it, that's not rule number one. That's a bad no-no if I can spot it. And so seeing things that are repetitive or just not sounding human-like, outside of that, I don't have a whole lot of rules. It's our job, it's our job to keep the doors open and the business flowing. And if that means utilizing chat to get to a next project that's on your plate, I'm all for it. Now, again, if I can spot it, that's a big no-no. If I think it's lacking creativity, I'll definitely call that out. And there's certainly things that have to get done and used internally that we can utilize when it comes to like slides or icons or charts. But if it's something that's consumer facing, we want it to be our own and slick and really have that wow factor. So, just from a guardrail standpoint, I don't really have any. If that makes your job better and faster, go for it. Now, again, I'm not writing stories that are being, put up on Pulitzers and awards and type of things like that. And so that's a different definition for different people. And I'm sure the AP writers have a different feeling about it. And certainly, I don't want to read a bunch of stories that are written by machines. But again, for what we do in our capacity with our small shop, it gets more work done, and that's best for the farmer.
We got one more. Summer asks, what would be your best advice to someone just starting in communications? What are some helpful resources you have used that you found helped a lot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say first and foremost, and I tell this to a lot of new employees or even interns, like first of all, be coachable. Like nothing's harder than working with somebody who has an opinion and won't get it out of their head. I've got 20 plus years of experience. I know a little bit about what I'm doing. I know I'm an old now, and and new people come into the industry, see it a different way, and that's great. What I'd say is listen and be coachable, and then be available. And so that means if I need a project done at 5:45 on a weekday and that messes up with your happy hour schedule, like I'm sorry, but I need someone who I can depend on and it can be available to be there to pick up the work. I come from a and some of you guys can understand this, from a world where we didn't leave work until late at night, and sometimes we worked weekends and sometimes we worked overnight, and that's certainly what our producers do. when it comes to the work that they do in the field. And so I expect that out of my employees. Now, look, you want to leave early that day, I'm all for it. So long as you got your work done, just be coachable and be available. Outside of that, like look at different industries. I pay attention to a lot of different industries, whether it be on their social media platforms or what they're doing from a technology standpoint. Eh, Sometimes we can get closed-minded about what the ag world's doing and what, this commodity might be doing versus this commodity. Just look outside of your normal horizon and take a look at what other companies are doing to communicate. Watch commercials, man. Like there's a lot of money being spent on great creative, on commercials during the Super Bowl. Watch commercials. I know that they aren't as good as they used to be, but see how they're communicating those messages and critique them. Like go back to your office and talk about the bad commercials you saw and how they didn't relay the message and how you didn't remember the brand at the end of the commercial and how they could have done this better. So just be kind of receptive about what all is going on out there. And yeah, utilize this new technology because it's not going away. And if you're not using it, somebody else is, and they're probably going to lap you.
Well, thank you, Clint. Did anybody else have any questions? Kind of running out of time anyway, but thank you, Clint, for sharing your wisdom with all of us. This is recorded and Stacy will get it up on the website here in the next few days, I'm sure. And I'm sure if you have any questions, Clint would be happy to respond via email if you want to follow up in the next few days. But thank you, Clint. We appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us. Follow us on social media and we'll let you know about our next coffee and collaboration. And don't forget about next week's regional workshop in Illinois. It'll be a great one, and hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Bye. Thank you.